You're too expensive to save. That's the first thing my father said that morning, standing in the doorway of room 412 at Denver General while I lay in a hospital bed, 19 years old, tubes running through my arms. His voice was flat, like he was reading off a receipt. Behind him, my mother twisted her wedding ring, and my brother scrolled his phone by the window. As if this was just another meeting, he couldn't wait to leave. Robert Cole lifted a manila folder stuffed with medical bills and waved it like evidence. $300,000 at minimum, Ethan. Before complications. Before the experimental treatments. You want us to risk the house, the shop, your mother's retirement, for a 60% chance. I croaked, my throat raw from chemo. Dad, I'm your son. Margaret didn't look at me. She stared at the linoleum wall like there was something fascinating there. Your father's right. We have to think about all of us. Grant finally looked up from his phone, his tone as cold as the steel watch on his wrist. It's math, Ethan. 1 life versus 3. You'd do the same if you were in my shoes. At 7:43 a.m., with untouched scrambled eggs cooling on my tray table, they walked out of my room and out of my life. By noon, their numbers were disconnected. By sundown, my girlfriend Claire had broken up with me, repeating my father's line almost word for word. Don't drag me down with you. In the space of 3 hours, I went from having a family and a future to being utterly alone. The next 5 years were a blur of survival. I worked 3 jobs between chemo sessions, stocking shelves at midnight, running deliveries in the morning, and repairing cabinets for cash on weekends. My hair fell out, my body rotted from the inside. But somehow, I lived. I carried my own force stand when nurses were too busy. I walked to treatment when I couldn't afford bus fare. When I wanted to give up, a quiet janitor named Harold Finch sat with me through the nights, slipping me crackers from the staff lounge, mopping the floor around my bed like my dignity still mattered. Last week, there was a knock on my apartment door. A man in an Armani suit introduced himself as Nathaniel Graves. He held a briefcase worth more than my rent. I thought it was a debt collector, but he smiled gently and said, Ethan Cole, I'm here regarding a $63 million inheritance left specifically to you. I laughed in his face. Then he opened the briefcase and laid out documents stamped with seals and signatures I couldn't argue with. The donor's name made my chest collapse. Harold Finch, the janitor who once mopped my chemo spills at midnight. The man no one noticed, who had nothing but kindness to give, until I learned he had everything. His message was short. To the boy they said wasn't worth saving. You proved them all wrong. My father once calculated my survival like it was a bad investment. Harold Finch, the janitor who treated me like a human being, left me $63 million. My name is Ethan Cole. At 19, my family abandoned me because I was too expensive to save. At 24, a stranger made me a millionaire because he believed I was worth more than they ever did. This is what happened in between. Your treatment, even with insurance covering most of it, will still cost around $300,000. That's assuming everything goes perfectly, no setbacks, no complications, no experimental rounds. Robert Cole said it the way a man explains the price of a car repair, his voice flat, no rise or fall. I lay there in my hospital bed, 19 years old, my throat raw from yesterday's procedure, while he tapped numbers into the calculator app on his phone like he'd been doing for weeks. The house is worth $420, he continued. We still owe $200 on the mortgage. The shop barely breaks, even as it is. Your mother's retirement account has $80. Grant's wedding is already set for next spring. Deposits are non-refundable. I tried to lift my head, but the tubes tugged against my arm. Dad, we can figure this out. There are payment plans. I'll work when I'm better. We don't have to decide like this. He set the phone on my tray table and looked me straight in the eyes. For the first time that morning, I saw no hesitation, no softness, just finality. You don't understand, Ethan. This isn't just about money. It's about survival. Our survival. Your chance is 60%. That means 40% risk we lose everything 3 generations of Coles built. For lives ruined, for nothing. The words landed harder than the chemo dripping into my veins. I'm your son, I rasped. And Grant's my son too, Robert shot back. Your mother is my wife. I have to think about all of them, not just you. Margaret finally turned from the window. Tears streaked her cheeks, but her voice was steady. We've made the decision, Ethan. If the treatments don't work, we'll be left with nothing. No house, no business, No retirement. We'll be ruined at 50. Grant looked up from his phone long enough to add his own cold calculation. It's just economics, Ethan. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one. I've got 3 development deals lined up, but they collapse if we liquidate everything to cover your debt. Don't make this harder than it already is. You're abandoning me, I whispered, though the reality was already sinking into my bones. We're choosing survival, Robert said, gathering the folder of bills like he was closing an account ledger. You're too expensive to save, son. The math doesn't work. That line lodged itself in my chest, sharp as broken glass. Too expensive to save. Like I was just another busted engine in his shop, not worth the parts. What about love? I begged. What about family? All those years you said family comes first. This is family first, he said, maddeningly calm. Protecting the ones who have the best chance. Margaret walked over, leaned down as if she might kiss my forehead. Instead, she whispered, I'm sorry you got sick. But love sometimes means letting go. We can't let you drag us under. They filed out in a line, Robert first, folder tucked under his arm, Margaret behind him, Grant last. He paused at the door, smirk fading into something almost human. For what it's worth, I hope you beat it. Just don't expect us to watch. The door clicked shut. Machines beeped. Poison dripped into my veins, and I realized I had just been left for dead by my own blood. The next 24 hours, I wanted to let go. Not because of the cancer, but because of them. I stared at the ceiling tiles until I knew every crack by heart. The nurses noticed. Extra juice boxes, too many check-ins, whispered sympathy in the hallways. Then Margaret Washington walked in. 62 years old, hospital social worker, silver braids wrapped in a crown, glasses sliding down her nose. She dragged a chair right up beside me and took my hand like she'd known me all my life. I heard what they did, she said softly. Now listen, honey, you can lie here and let them be right. Or you can prove some things can't be measured in dollars. They're not coming back, I croaked. Good, she said without hesitation. Then you don't have to waste another breath on people who don't deserve you. Now, let's talk about what you are going to do. Her binder was thicker than my father's folder, but instead of reasons to quit, it was filled with solutions, charity applications, hospital assistance, grants for young cancer patients, jobs I could do from bed. The hospital has programs that could cover 60% of this debt, she explained. And the rest? $20 a month, if that's what you can pay. They want living patients who can pay something, not dead ones who can't. Why do you care? I asked. She rolled up her sleeve and showed me a tattoo of a phoenix. Because 30 years ago, I had breast cancer. My husband left me, too. Said he didn't sign up to be a nurse. But I'm still here. He's on his 3rd divorce. The best revenge isn't dying. It's living. That night, she brought me a beat-up laptop and helped me sign up for data entry work. $15 an hour, from a hospital bed. Next came medical transcription, tutoring high school kids in math and carpentry. Every dollar mattered. Every hour mattered. But she told me I needed a reason bigger than spite. I found it the next day. Timothy, a 7-year-old with leukemia, moved into the room next door. His parents lived 3 hours away, only visited weekends. I watched him color superheroes alone, for pole rattling beside him. One night, I wheeled mine over. We spent hours building towers from medicine cups and tongue depressors. When it collapsed, his laugh filled the ward. That laugh became my reason. Chemo was hell. 8 months stretched into 10. My hair fell out. My weight dropped to 115. Some days I worked only an hour before the nausea crushed me. But I never stopped. I stocked shelves on midnight shifts, delivered newspapers before dawn, did data entry until my eyes burned. Harold Finch, the night janitor, became my silent guardian. He mopped my room slower than necessary, slipped crackers on my nightstand, once fixed my laptop cord with tape and a paperclip. One night he said, "You're a fighter." That's rare these days. It was the longest thing I'd ever heard him say. Claire called once, months later. Her voice shook, but not with love. "Your dad came to my parents. He said if I stayed with you, my future would be ruined. He's right, Ethan. Love doesn't pay the bills." I taped a note to my mirror that night. "You are worth saving." I read it every morning, whether I believed it or not. 5 years passed. I survived. The cancer went into remission. The debt stayed like a shadow, 200,000 even after reductions. I lived in a studio above a Chinese restaurant, the smell of sesame oil in my clothes, learning Mandarin curse words through the walls. Then last Tuesday, 3 sharp knocks on my door. I opened it to find a man in an Armani suit, silver hair perfectly combed, leather briefcase gleaming. "Ethan Cole?" he asked, voice polished but kind. "Yes," I said, bracing for another debt collector. "My name is Nathaniel Graves. I'm here to discuss an inheritance matter." I laughed bitterly. "Unless my father left me his calculator, you've got the wrong guy." He stepped inside without flinching at my air mattress, my card table, the shirts hanging from a rope. He opened his briefcase, laid out official documents stamped with seals. "The estate totals $63 million. It was left entirely to you." My legs nearly gave out. "This is a scam." Graves shook his head. His smile was soft, almost reverent. "The donor requested I deliver one message to you personally. Harold Finch never forgot the boy abandoned, but unwilling to quit. The janitor. The man who fixed my charger and left crackers on my nightstand. The one who saw me when no one else did. Robert Cole calculated that I wasn't worth saving. Harold Finch, the hospital janitor, left me $63 million to prove I was. My name is Ethan Cole. At 19, my family walked away because the math didn't work. At 24, a stranger proved that love, loyalty, and quiet kindness are worth more than numbers on any screen. And this is what happened in between." I collapsed into the folding chair, the legs groaning under me. $63 million? That number might as well have been a fairy tale. Nobody in my life had ever left me anything except hospital bills and memories that still burned like acid. Why would someone leave me a fortune? Nathaniel Graves, the lawyer, slid a packet of papers across the desk, his voice calm, deliberate. "Before you know his name, Ethan, he asked me to share his story." He produced a letter written in an uneven hand, the ink faded but fierce in its determination. The man had been born in 1951, dirt poor in rural Nebraska. He left school early to feed his family, took work wherever he could, and eventually settled into a janitor's job that lasted 40 years. Every evening, though, after polishing floors and scrubbing toilets, he tinkered with electronics in a garage lit by a single bulb. He never bragged about it, never hinted at what he was doing, but he ended up holding 17 patents for medical devices, especially tools that improved chemotherapy delivery. His designs had saved lives and earned him hundreds of millions in licensing fees. My hands trembled so hard I almost tore the letter. "Who?" Graves' eyes softened. "Harold Finch, the man who cleaned your room during treatment." The name punched the air out of me. Harold, in that same gray uniform every night, hair thinning, eating vending machine sandwiches for dinner. The quiet man who muttered about circuit boards while mopping around my four-pole. He was a millionaire. No, more than that. He had been the closest thing to a guardian angel I ever had, and I hadn't even known it. "Mr. Finch lived simply because he wanted to," Graves said. "No wife, no children. He told me he spent decades watching patients fight cancer with everything they had. But you, Ethan, you stayed with him. He said he'd never seen anyone battle so fiercely with so little support. He watched you work on your laptop through the nights, even when you could barely sit upright. You reminded him that dignity still mattered." Graves slid over another envelope. He left specific instructions. "The entire estate is yours, but with one condition. A foundation must be created for patients abandoned by their families." He wrote, and I quote, "Ethan Cole was labeled too expensive to save by those who should have loved him most. This money will prove that no human life is a financial liability. This money will make sure no one fights alone again." The tears broke then. I didn't try to stop them. Harold had been there during my worst nights when I was vomiting blood, begging God to take me, and he'd just sit in the chair so I wouldn't die alone. He'd never spoken much, but now his silence carried a weight I could finally understand. "There's more," Graves whispered. From his briefcase, he drew a battered journal, its pages worn from use. "He wrote about you constantly." I opened it, and Harold's jagged handwriting leapt from the page. The boy typed until 3 in the morning after chemo knocked him flat. His family hasn't visited in months. He doesn't know I slipped him stronger pain meds when the agony was too much. He doesn't know I paid for his antibiotics when insurance wouldn't. He doesn't know his worth, but I do. It's beyond measure. When did he pass? My voice cracked like glass. 2 weeks ago. Pancreatic cancer. He refused treatment. Said he'd lived long enough and wanted his money to go toward life. not toward prolonging death. His final words were about you. Tell Ethan his father was wrong. He was worth saving. He was worth everything. I pressed the journal to my chest, shaking, sobbing for the janitor who had seen me when my own blood had turned away. The money cleared the next morning, $63 million in an account with my name on it, the same name my father had scribbled off a hospital release form years earlier. The bank manager actually phoned me personally, almost disbelieving, probably wondering why a multimillionaire lived above a Chinese restaurant and bought discount ramen. My first call wasn't to celebrate. It was to Dr. Elaine Porter's old colleague, a social worker named Beatrice Washington, the woman who once kept me alive with her binder full of resources and her refusal to accept my despair. Ethan, she answered, surprised. Sweetheart, how are you? Beatrice, sit down. Why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I need every name in your charity care program. Everyone drowning in medical debt. All of them. Her breath caught. That's more than 200 patients. Ethan, what are you planning? I'm paying off every cent. The line went silent, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard her crying. What happened? She whispered. You didn't. No, I said gently. A janitor named Harold Finch left me everything he owned, because he believed I was worth saving when my family didn't. Now I'm going to make sure nobody else feels like I did. Within days, the Finch Foundation was born. Nathaniel Graves' firm filed the paperwork. We built a program for patients abandoned because their care cost too much: financial assistance, housing, counseling, real support. No one would eat alone on Thanksgiving in a fluorescent hospital room again. No one would choose between treatment and keeping their home. Then came the call I knew would come. Grant's voice came over the line, shaky. Ethan, don't hang up. It's me. Dad wants to talk. Mom's been crying all morning. We made a mistake, okay? We were scared. You have to understand. I stayed quiet. It's all over the news, he pressed. $63 million left to you. Dad saw it on the ticker at the shop. He wants to reconcile. We're family, Ethan. Family forgives. One mistake. I said at last. Dad told me I was too expensive to save. Mom called letting me die an act of love. You said it was economics. That's not one mistake. That's who you all were. Robert's voice thundered onto the call. Son, we did what we thought was best. 300,000 would have ruined us. We were trying to protect the family. No, Dad, I said evenly. You were protecting your assets. There's a difference. You have more money now than you can ever use, he snapped. Your mother hasn't been the same since. We're still your blood. Harold Finch was my family, I told him. Beatrice was my family. The nurses who held my hand through chemo were my family. Timothy, the 7-year-old with leukemia who ate hospital pizza with me because his parents couldn't afford gas to visit, he was my family. Family doesn't assign you a dollar value. Family doesn't abandon you because you're expensive. Robert's mask cracked. So you'll punish us forever? Keep it all for strangers. I'm not keeping it, I said. I'm giving it to people who need it, people like me. People you decided weren't worth saving. You're making a mistake, he growled. No, Dad. You made one 5 years ago. You taught me blood isn't the same as family. I hung up, blocked the number. Today, the Finch Foundation has already helped over 400 patients. $12 million of medical debt erased. Apartments secured for families who would have been homeless during chemo. A network built so no one faces the fight alone. On my desk, beside Harold's journal, sits his old janitor's badge. Sometimes I stare at it longer than the balance sheet. That badge means more to me than all the zeros in my bank account. Cancer taught me how fragile life is. My family's betrayal taught me something even more vital. Love isn't measured in dollars. Family isn't written in blood. And sometimes the people who see your worth are the ones pushing a mop at midnight, carrying gold in their hearts while everyone else only counts what's in the bank. If you believe someone out there needs to hear they're worth saving, share this story with them. Because sometimes, the quietest angels walk past us in scuffed shoes, and we never know until it's too late.